Good morning, all. And for the fifth day, session one, we are having Dr. Rahul Paul. He is assistant professor in the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering at NIT Sikkim, and he is having authority on MIMO and wireless communication research. And today's topic he is taking on wireless ad hoc networks and its application in wave. I think it must be multimeter wave.
Yes, a
MM wave,
millimeter waves.
okay, millimeter, yes, millimeter wave, MIMO wireless communication. But
Yeah.
MU, I do not know. Okay,
Okay.
so on behalf of AICT sponsored Atal FDP on mobile computing and wireless network at MIT Meerut, I wish to convey my regards and welcome Dr. Rahul to take the session, and let me hand over the session to him. So please welcome Dr. Rahul. Please, sir.
Thank you. Okay. So good morning, everyone. Okay. So I want to give a talk on this wireless ad hoc networks and its application in millimeter wave multi-user MIMO system, wireless system. Okay. So basically, I will just go to introduction of this wireless ad hoc networks. Then we will discuss some constraints and challenges. Then actually, applied. I have taken that example of wireless ad hoc networks and I have implemented it my application. Then I will show you how it works and how can you utilize a wireless ad hoc network so where you need it. Okay. So so basically we should know that wireless what is a wireless ad hoc network. So basically first wireless ad hoc network nothing but you can see that it is a infrastructure less network wireless ad hoc network and it is a uh, collection of wireless node and which can interact with each other. In other words, they can talk to each other through radio waves. Okay. So this is a one of the type of wireless network. There is another type of wireless network is a infrastructure based network. So you can see that this is an infrastructure based network. So what is the difference between infrastructure based network and infrastructure less network? So in the infrastructure based network, you can see that this is having a mobile stations and the base station or we can say access point. So it is fixed infrastructure and access point is it is not movable. It is a fixed at a one point. So all the routing and forwarding work is performed by the this access point. But on the other side, you can see that this infrastructure less network it is not having any centralized access point. Okay. So now this is a distributed system and each node has their own work and their own computation. Okay. So there is no any centralized body which can manage everything. So obviously, if there is no centralized body, we have to face some problems, designing challenges, and there will be some constraint. So we will see one by one. So basically, wireless ad hoc network, you can see that these are these are wireless node. Okay, they are connected with each other, and the in a wireless ad hoc network, each node is movable. So obviously, when they form the topology, okay, and that topology will be dynamic due to mobility of the wireless node. Okay, and it is also called a multi-hop network. Suppose what happens when the source node transmits a signal to the destination node, but when the destination node is not in direct transmission range of the source node, is then this the source node takes the help of intermediate nodes. Okay, and these intermediate nodes helps in relaying the information to the destination node. So this is how wireless ad hoc the transmission of data take place in the wireless ad hoc networks. Now, if you see that based on the topology and deployment, ad hoc network can be classified as, you know, this is a homogeneous ad hoc networks and this is a heterogeneous ad hoc network. In the homogeneous ad hoc network, the node which is connected to each other in the homogeneous ad hoc network, they are having the similar characteristics and similar specifications. Okay, so we call it a homogeneous ad hoc network. And this is a heterogeneous dot network when the each wireless node is having a different capabilities. So you can see that in this example, we have connected. So there are three wireless nodes, and like a mobile, smartphones, and tablets, and the laptops. So these are different nodes, okay, and they are different capabilities, like a different storage, different processing speed. So obviously, this might be a problem in the heterogeneous in the wireless ad hoc network because of having different processing speed. So if you look on the history of this wireless ad hoc network, so it is started in the early 1970s actually. Okay, under the Packet Radio Network project, and which is sponsored by the DARPA. This is a Defense Agency Research Project Agency of USA. So mainly they wanted to enable a communication between a wireless node in the battlefield. Okay, so that means there will be several wireless nodes, and they could communicate with each other using a some protocol. Okay, so they designed this wireless ad hoc network, but there was a one problem that key these wireless devices were very bulky, so they are not very portable. Okay, again after the 10 year 15 years later, this project again was relooked, and they made it very portable. Okay, and this is also project sponsored by DARP. Okay, but they designed the project, and they became very focused because it has various application in different scenarios, such as relief operations. Okay, in the battlefield. Okay, but these that system is having a some uh, problems, like you can see that because there is no centralized device, and there are no much successful protocol which were designed at that time. So we are facing some problem such as problem with media access, error and flow control, and routing and forwarding. So those were the problems at that time, and these problems are uh, you know uh, rectified after propose some algorithm. And now today ad hoc network is very famous, and we are using it. So if we see the technical approach, so ad hoc network nothing but is a distributed wireless network, because obviously that key the radio nodes are distributed in the wide area. Okay, so that's why we are calling it a distributed wireless network. Okay, and one more thing is that key ad hoc wireless network operates in the time division duplex mode. It means half duplex mode. Okay, time duplex mode is half duplex, means the transmitter and receiver now are not able to send their signal at the same time. So this is a half duplex. Okay, so now if you see that there are some technologies are already available, which are named as Bluetooth and Zigbee and Wi-Fi. So they actually established a wireless ad hoc network. Okay, or generally they establish a single hop wireless network, single hop wireless ad hoc network. So these are the technology. Using this technology, we can form the wireless ad hoc network. So in this wireless ad hoc network, what happens? Like a similar, if we source node sending a data, transmitting a data, and to the destination node, but destination node is not direct transmission range of the source node. So in it takes the help of intermediate nodes. Okay, and these intermediate nodes should cooperate. Okay, in routing and forwarding the traffic to the destination. Then the destination node will be able to the will able to get the intended signal. So this is the basic technical approach to establish a wireless ad hoc network. So if we see that some enabling technologies, okay, So basically, if you are if you are creating a wireless dog network, okay, so it means several devices are communicating each other. So basically, if you see that, what is the basic building block? Key one device should interact with the neighbor device, and that neighbor device will interact with their neighbor device. So in this way, we can create the wireless ad hoc network. Okay, so these technologies which are shown are responsible for creating the wireless ad hoc network. So first one is a Zigbee, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and WiMAX. Okay, so why we see that they are following these standards: Zigbee and Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and WiMAX. Okay, now if we compare these enabling technologies, okay, with on the basis of some parameters such as applications, data rate, and range. Okay, so you can see that Zigbee technologies, okay, it provides data rate up to 250 kb per second, and its range is up to 100 meter. Okay, and generally it is used in home automation and smart grid. You can see that in IoTs, the home appliance are connected to through this Zigbee technology, because the within home, yeah, within room, you can get access. The range of this Zigbee technology is 100 meter. Okay, so second one is the Bluetooth. The range of Bluetooth technology is similar to the Zigbee technology, but we can get the high data rate, like up to 1 Mbps through the Bluetooth. Okay, so and then we come to the IEEE 808.11. This is a Wi-Fi. So generally we can use the Wi-Fi in the ad hoc mode also, and the range of this Wi-Fi in ad hoc mode, it is up to 200 meters. Okay, so range is increased, and the data rate also increased as compared to the Bluetooth. So there are several standards are available of Wi-Fi, like 802.A, G, N. So I am giving one example, 802.1 GG. So it is providing a data rate up to 54 Mbps. Okay, and this technology is mainly used for single hop data network. So generally we are using this technology to transferring the data one mobile phone to another phone using the Wi-Fi. Okay, then after come to the IEEE 808.6. So this is a WiMAX technology. In the WiMAX technology, if we compare to this Wi-Fi IEEE 802.1 technologies, so the range is increased and also data range also increased, and range is increased. It means that the devices which they are very quite far from each other, still they communicate. So range is all approximately up to 5 kilometers, and data rate is a 75 Mbps. And this technology also used for the single home ad hoc network. If we go the classification of wireless ad hoc networks, so we can classify wireless ad hoc network into different types actually. So first one is the wireless mesh networks, and second is the mobile ad hoc networks, and third one is the vehicular ad hoc networks, and fourth is a wireless sensor network. So it is a very basic type of wireless ad hoc network. So in this you can see that in this you can see that this communication network, made of radio nodes. Okay, and they are connected to each other through a radio waves. Okay, so they are transmitting. Okay, and they generally they communicate with their neighbor nodes only. So this is a constraint in the wireless mesh networks. And most importantly, these type of wireless network are static. It means no any wireless node is movable. So it means the topology of this network will be static. Okay, and so designing of this type of network is very easy. Okay, so suppose they are every node is stationary. If any node is dropped, yeah, you can say, if you are any node is not interested to come in this network, he will leave this network. So after leaving that network, we can easily form the another topology. So it is provides a platform, a good platform to form a dog network, and we can use very basic protocols of forming this network because each node is a uh, static. So topology, it is not also dynamic. So relatively, this type of dog network is very not very expensive. Okay, and we can make form it very easy. The second one is the mobile ad hoc networks. Okay, so this one is very challenging. So in the wireless ad hoc network, each node is movable. So when each node is movable, it means it is causing a very high dynamic topology. Okay, because of changing the frequent length changes. Okay, it means each length is changing very frequently. So every time, every over the time, we need to make the new topology. So it is very tough to form the topology, network topology, over the time. And it this and so because of this dynamic topology, because of having this dynamic topology, this infrastructure has followed with this property. This is called a cell chop. Okay, so cell chop is a nothing but is a just property of mobile ad hoc networks. So it means they has capability of self configuring, self healing, self optimizing, and self property. Okay, if if they are not having this kind of properties, so it is very difficult to form the mobile ad hoc networks. Okay, because over the time this topology getting changed. Okay, so when the source node transmitting their symbol to the destination node, each time the source node have to find the route, find the reliable route to send their data to the destination. Okay, because the frequent link changes take place in this network. Okay, now come to the main this spatial spectrum reuse. Obviously these wireless node, obviously not a base station, not a access like a mobile tower. So these wireless node are like our mobile phone tablet, and these wireless node are battery driven. Obviously they will have a limited bandwidth. Okay, so now if you limited bandwidth, but a node have to share that bandwidth to the several devices. So in the wireless network, we use the frequency reuse, concept to to accommodate all to provide the service to other devices. Okay, so this is one of the properties of the mobile ad hoc networks. Like we use in cellular network, frequency reuse. So last one is a vehicle ad hoc network. So you can see that this is similar to the mobile ad hoc network. But in the vehicular dot network, it is having a vehicle to vehicle communication. You can see that this is a road, and these are the vehicle, they are moving on the road. Okay, so you can see that these are vehicles and they are communicating to each other. Okay, and this on the edge of the roads, the roadside unit is a fixed. Okay, so they are not movable, and these vehicles are able to communicate with these roadside unit access point. It means this vehicular network having two types of infrastructure. First one is the ad hoc, and second is one is the infrastructure based network. Okay, so when the vehicle are communicating with each other, so it is called a vehicle to vehicle communication. But when these vehicles are communicating with the roadside unit, this is called a vehicle to infrastructure network communication. So what is the properties and what is the requirement of the while this what we call vehicle to vehicle vehicular ad hoc network? So here we need a spontaneous data exchange between vehicles, because suppose one car is moving on the road and another car is following that car. Okay, now an incident take place on the road, so that car, okay, that car is followed by another car. They can inform each other about that accident. Okay, so for this we need a spontaneous data exchange. Okay, so this is a one of the properties of the this vehicular ad hoc network. So when these vehicle communicate to each other, what technology they will use, and when the vehicle we communicate to radio access radio side unit, what technology they use. So we can see that for vehicle to vehicle communication, we use the simple communication technology like a short range technology called Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. So it is similar like a mobile ad hoc network, correct? And the second one is the when the vehicle communicate, you can see vehicle communicate to the right side unit. So it's like a cellular communication. So for cellular communication, we can use the LT technology. Okay. So now that's what we're calling it a when these vehicle communicating with other, we are calling a vehicle to vehicle communication. And when these vehicle are communicating to that fixed access point, at fixed access point, it is called a vehicle to infrastructure communication. Okay. Now, if we compare this vehicular ad hoc network to the mobile ad hoc network, so you can see that the pattern, because the each vehicle is moving along a road, so we can predict the pattern, okay, of these traffic, data traffic in the vehicular ad hoc network. Okay. Now, another is differentiated from mobile ad hoc network because the speed of the vehicle obviously will be very high. So this vehicular dot network has a more mobility as compared to the mobile dot networks. But we also had one advantage that we can predict the data pattern because they obviously they will move along a road only. But the mobile dot network, it is not possible. They will move, they will following the only single path. They can go any directions. Okay. So now what is the advantage and application of vehicular dot network? So first one is the cooperating driving, and the second one is the information sharing and media streaming. Obviously, where we needed corporate driving. So I have just given one example. If any accident happens, so any driver you know which are inside the car, if he saw any accident, he can tell the other drivers using the vehicular ad hoc network. So they will know that about this accident. Okay. And the information and media streaming, okay, obviously that not only telling about this incident, they can also share some kind of information sharing, other kind of and media streaming. Okay. So now third point is the value added service like a, so if obviously these are vehicular to infrastructure network. So when the vehicle is communicating with the road access unit, so using this communication technology, LT technology, vehicle can communicate to can access the internet. Okay. What is the accessing of the internet in the vehicular dot network? That is the most important is the navigation. Okay. Suppose we are going a unknown place and we don't know the direction. So if we are if your vehicle is connected to the internet, so he can get the direction through the internet, through any application program which he running in their system. Okay. So now second one is the what component we take to establish a vehicular dot network. So obviously first one is the onboard unit. So onboard unit, the each vehicle is having an onboard unit, and that this is not this is just circuit electronic electrical circuit. You can see that. So suppose any vehicle obviously is having a many sensors like a temperature sensor, fuel sensor. So this onboard unit collects the all information to the driver. Okay, to be about the it is just information about the car. Okay, I'm running out of the fuel. Yeah, my car is heating too much. So we can get this type of information through a sensor which are deployed inside a car. And obviously another vehicle is also having the onboard unit. Okay, so through this onboard unit, the vehicle communicate to each other. Okay. And the one most important thing that why we deploy the roadside unit. So they come in role. Okay, they come to very useful when these vehicles out of range actually. So suppose these vehicles are moving on the road. Okay, you can see that example, but they are out of range actually, they are not communicate. So what happens, they communicate to the roadside unit. Okay, so so they share their information to this roadside unit access point, and another vehicle can also exchange the information to the roadside unit. Okay, so in spite of out of the range, they communicate to each other. Now if we compare the mobile ad hoc network and vehicular ad hoc network, you can see that this is the cost of employment deployment actually. So obviously vehicular ad hoc network is having a two types of network, so comparatively it is cost of deployment is high. And second one is the mobility scenario. Obviously, the vehicle is moving very fast, so mobility of that vehicular dot will be really high. Okay. Okay. Now frequency, what frequency and what technology we are using. So we can see that in the for wireless dot network, we actually using the technologies for communicating with each other between vehicles. It is called wireless access in the vehicle environment. Okay, that is called wave. Okay, and the wave, it supports a multi-hop communication between vehicles like a Bluetooth and Zigbee. They are they they can form only single hop network. But in vehicular dot network, if we use this technology wave, so using this technology, we can create the multi-hop network. Okay. Now if you talk about the range actually, so you can see that the range of the mobile ad hoc network using this technology, there's a Wi-Fi in the ad hoc mode. It is 100 meters. Earlier we have seen that, and the vehicular dot network here they're using this technology wave. Then the range of that is increased, quite increased. That is 100 meter, sorry, 1000 meter. Okay, and partitioning of the due to high mobility of the in the vehicular dot network, obviously that the 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 partitioning of network gets take place frequent in the vehicular ad hoc network. Okay. Now talk about the mode of the operation. Obviously that we have seen that key mobile ad hoc network is having only infrastructure less network, but in the vehicular ad hoc network, it is having both infrastructure plus infrastructure less. Okay. And what about movement patterns of the nodes? Okay, you see the movement of pattern of the nodes in the, it is a random actually. Okay, but in the wireless ad hoc net, sorry, vehicular ad hoc network is a constrained by road only, because each vehicle will move along a road only. Okay, last one, you can see that wireless sensor network. Okay. So by the name we can guess that what is the wireless sensor network. So nothing but it is collection of wireless sensor network. Okay, and the e sensor, and they are sensors. So obviously they will like measure the temperature, humidity, and vibration. Okay, air pollution. So and when they measure these parameters, and they will transfer to the sync nodes, we can see the centralized node. Okay, and these centralized node access process these temperatures. Okay, like in the city, if we deploy the sensor node, which can measure the quality of air at a different places. So they will measure the quality index of air. Okay, and after measuring that, the information they will transfer forward to their neighbor sensor nodes, and finally the information will go to the your sync nodes. Okay, so that is the centralized point. Okay, now centralized point will have the all the data which is obtained by the sensor nodes, and now the sync node will process this data and will create a meaningful information. So this is a wireless sensor network. So there are some constraints we will see quickly. So obviously infrastructure-less network, obviously this is a problem for us, because in the infrastructure-less network, there is no any centralized body. So who will take care of everything and who manage the network? So this is one of the problem. So dynamic, and the second was the dynamic changing network topology. Obviously because of that, suppose the source node is transmitting their signal, okay, and it goes to the intermediate nodes. So at any time, if any intermediate nodes dropped out, so then the packet will be lost, okay. And the now the that source node have to again search the reliable node to send their to send their signal to the destination. So this is one of the problem. And there are some physical layer limitation, obviously, that if you talk about physical layer limitations, so the each wireless node is a power constraint, so obviously we power constraint. And then if they are power constraint, it means it can radiate the limited power. So if it is radiating the limited power, so we have to also range constraint, okay. If it we are not communicate for for a long distance, okay. This is one of the constraint. And the second one is a limited bandwidth. Obviously we are using the wireless node such as like a mobile phone. This is one of this is a devices, they form the wireless adort network. So they are bandwidth constraint actually, okay. We have limited bandwidth. So now if we are limited bandwidth, then obviously we cannot provide very high data rate. Yeah, we cannot serve the many wireless nodes. So this is one of the constraint. And erroneous, obviously, that if one node is communicated to the several nodes and each node wants to send their data, if you they are ready to serve data, but one node have to decide on which time, on how we can serve to each node. So then this problems will come. So there will be chance probability of occurring error will increase, okay. So now we'll see the some design challenges. So you can see that design challenges are routing and forwarding. Like a routing determines a reliable nodes from source to the destination, okay. And the forwarding means that uh, in the reliable path. So the node have to forward their packet to the neighbor nodes, okay. So when the now nodes have to decide where have to forward this packet. So this is one of the problem. This is a designing challenge in the wireless adaptive network. Now second one is the scalability and error control, okay. So when the adaptive network grows, okay, so like there are n devices in the network, so that obviously the throughput will go low, go down. That is the square root of n actually, okay. Obviously when the network grows, okay, network grows, the data traffic will increase actually. So data traffic will increase, then the obviously the probability of occurring probability of occurring and suppose we are sending any data and the traffic is increased, that so it is not it is not necessary that, yeah, you can say that it's not uh, like it is not guaranteed that that data will reach to the destination node in a correct mode. So chances of correct occurring the error will increase as the network data down network it grows, okay. So now we talk about device heterogeneity and flow control. Device heterogeneity means if you obviously wireless network is made of wireless node, and each wireless node has different capability, different speeds, different. So now these problems lead to the flow control. Flow control nothing but the rate at which the source node is transmitting their symbol is greater than the rate at which the receiver is receiving a symbol. Then this problem flow control comes in the role, okay. Now if you talk about the design challenges, second, there are some other design challenges like a quality of service, so like a bandwidth, delay, jitter, and packet loss probability. So these terms define the quality of service. If you are forming a network, so now we want to evaluate the performance of any wireless network. So first we will evaluate the what is the packet loss quality, what is the jitter and delay, okay. So jitter, why jitter, why jitter? So I will take the one example like a jitter. So what is the jitter is the problem in a wireless adapter network, because each packet will acquire a different route, okay, in the wireless adapter network. So the arriving of the packets at a destination node will be changed, will be different. Okay, like a one packet arriving at a destination at 3 seconds, and second packet is arriving at a destination of after 5 seconds. So this is a change in arrival time of the packets. So this problem will occur, and we suppose we are accessing the the source node is sending the any message to that source node, so the destination node. So because of delay, the quality of the video will degraded. Okay. Now, obviously, energy efficiency, because we are using a mobile phone, tablets. These are battery-driven devices. So obviously, if they are communicating for a long time, okay. So these devices gets lost. Okay. So this is the design challenge in the dog network. And the security. Obviously, security is the main issue in the wireless dot network, because this is an open medium. Any wireless node can add in the network, and form the wireless can form the wireless dot network. But we don't know that node is a reliable or not. Okay. It can be your it can malicious wireless node. Okay. That can create a problem in the wireless dot network. Okay. Because there is no any centralized body which can know that, yeah, which can run any protocol for finding out the any malicious attack in the wireless dot network. So such problems frequent occurs in the wireless dot network. So second is the medium access. So we'll see that what is the media access. Media access means, suppose there are several wireless nodes, and each node is now each node connected to many nodes. Okay. So now, in suppose if you are following the TDMA or FDMA technology to access the channel, okay, to provide a channel to the any wireless nodes, but there is no any centralized body. We can assign the slots and the frequency for the node, for the any wireless node in a fair manner. Okay. So these problems occurs in the wireless and network. Okay. And the second one, now we see that some corporate, this is one of the problem, or this is one of the problem in the wireless cooperation, wireless and network. Obviously, like if we are sending a signal from source node to destination node. Okay. Each node should cooperate to each other. If you if you want to that source node should send their signal to the destination node. If any node in between the source node and destination node deny to give a service, then it's not possible to to forward their signal to the destination node. So in this case, there will be two possibilities, that like if there is a node which accept all the requests and will provide service. So obviously it is a battery driven node. Obviously it gets lost very quiet, very fast. And the second is the total non cooperation. So non cooperation means, suppose that there is a wireless node in the dot network, and when the source node request request to forwarding for any uh, packet to the destination node, but that node denies to give service to the source node. Then the what happens? Then the obviously that if it denying the service, denying to giving a service the source node, then throughput will go down. Okay. So obviously, for dealing with this problem, we can actually can run the in the some algorithm. So what happens? Suppose each node is having a running algorithm which called watchdog protocol. So watchdog protocol. So that node will keep the track of the behavior other nodes. It means like that neighbor nodes, they are giving the service or not. Okay. Depend based on that, the watchdog protocol gets the information and maintain the table. Okay. And the what is the path rate actually based on that information. Okay. Based on that information, path rater will find the reliable node from source nodes, between the source nodes to destination node. Because if any node which is comes between the source node destination node, like they are not giving a service, then there will be a problem. So this is the work of the path rater, and a path rater gets information from the watchdog protocol. So based on that protocol, based on that information, path rater find the reliable path. Okay. So there is another method we can use to dealing with this misbehavior. So what happens? Suppose any node is providing any service, so we will increase the reputation of that node. Okay. Then after after increasing and the nodes which are not providing, which are not giving any service, we will decrease the reputation of those nodes. So based on that information, we can obviously we can find the reliable path from source to destination node. So there is some security challenge in the security challenge in the cooperation. You can see that we have seen this is an open medium. Any node can get into this network, and we don't know that this is a reliable node or this is a malicious node. Okay, so suppose what happens, this malicious node wants to wants to know information what is flowing in that network. So he can play a role as a like a reliable node. He can cooperate in the network, but 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 obviously this network is cooperating in the network, but he can get the information, reliable information, get the sensitive information, can steal the and can steal the information from this wireless this network, and can be used for their purpose. Okay, so this kind of problem occurs in the wireless in the while in the wireless adult network. And there are some routing challenges. You can see that. So, like you can see that routing challenges: high rate consumption of power at the nodes, low bandwidth, high error rates, and random movements of nodes, and security and privacy. Okay, and there are some routing protocol. So like so I have discussed like there are some routing challenges. So that routing challenges can be eradicated by this routing protocol. So there are two types of routing protocol: proactive routing protocol and reactive routing protocol. So what is the and in the proactive proactive protocol, what happens? It means that each node maintains the data, okay, in the table form, okay, like which node is reliable, yeah, which node is giving the service. Okay, so in this form, we in this form, the node, particular node will know that which path is which path is reliable to send their signal. So when they are ready to the signal, transmit the signal, so they follow that path only. In the reactor protocol, that is called on demand. It means not every node is a maintaining the table every time. It depends on the like when the source node ready to send their signal, on that time he can get the information from the neighbor nodes. Okay, and the on based on the that information, he can discover the reliable node. Okay, so and this is a better protocol because each node is a battery driven node. If we every time if we each time every node has to maintain the table, so it will take a power. Okay, and we are power constraint. Each node is a power constraint. So that reactive protocol, it is a very efficient as compared to the proactive protocol. Okay, so hello, hello. Uh, So actually, I want to take some break of 5 minutes. Then I will join again. Actually, Okay. Okay. So let's take a one example that I have used in my one of the paper. So, so actually, I have worked in the physical layer millimeter multi-user MIMO wireless system. So I will show, we will see that how we can like where we needed the wireless dog network. So to solve our purpose, so we can see that. So first of all, we want to I want to just give quick overview of the what is the millimeter wave multi-user MIMO system. Then we will go to the problem actually. So if you see the it actually millimeter multi-user MIMO system is it is a one of the 5G technologies. Okay, so we see that why we need a 5G 5 we have already 4G technology, then why we need a 5G technology. So obviously that the ever increasing demand of the data rate, compared to the fifth generation. Okay, develop the fifth generation. Okay, you can see that keep the devices, these are devices like mobile phones and the tablets and the laptop. So they are responsible a very high data traffic volumes. Okay, it means they need a high, they demand for a high data rate. It means they lead to the high throughput obviously. So that it is anticipated that key, that the wireless data traffic of a smartphone will be approximately 50 petabytes in 2021. Okay, so which is actually 12 times than the traffic in the 2016. Okay, so which is much higher. Okay, and now if you see that key what is the millimeter wave communication, we can see that millimeter wave frequencies which ranges from actually from 30 to 300 gigahertz. So if we using these frequencies, obviously these frequencies which provide a very high bandwidth. So if they providing a very high bandwidth, it means we can, using the high bandwidth, we can get the high data rate actually. So if you see the capacity of this, simple additive voice Gaussian noise, you can see that that is the log 1 plus p divided by n not b. Okay, and b is nothing but is the bandwidth and p is the transmitted power. Okay, obviously if we increasing the bandwidth, okay, by keeping the constant this SNR, then the capacity will increase linearly with respect to the bandwidth. Okay, so this is the main reason of using this millimeter wave frequencies. Okay, so but we are using the millimeter wave frequencies obviously, when the each frequency when attract with the nature, it is has different characteristics, it is having different characteristics. So similarly when the millimeter waves, when when they are radiated to the antenna in the nature, if we can see that, so they face some kind of problems. Okay, so like a free path loss, high penetration loss, and high power consumption and hardware implementation. So what is the free path loss? Free path loss, why it comes in role? Because of the, if you see that these millimeter wave frequencies are very high, so obviously the lambda is very low. So you can see that the received power at a receiver side depending on the lambda. If it lambda is very low, then the received power is will be very low. So this is one of the problem in the uh, uh, of using a millimeter wave as a carrier frequency. And now see the high penetration losses. In the high penetration losses, you can see that keep these losses, like when the waves travels, wave travels in the nature, and it interacts with the wall at glass. Okay, so and we are using a very high frequencies. Okay, so obviously the penetration losses is very high as compared to the microwave frequencies. Okay, so now, if the when the wall when these waves interact strike to the wall of glass, okay. So after striking these waves to the wall and glass, the waves come to the mobile station. But the power of these waves are very is very low as compared to the line of sight communication as a line of sight path actually. Okay, obviously that we can see that the penetration losses for glasses and walls, you know, it is relatively low for millimeter wave, which is comparable to the conventional microwave bands. Okay, but is relative high for brick and tinted glasses for the millimeter waves. Okay, now high power consumption, you can see that suppose this is a signal to noise ratio is equal to transmitted power divided by n naught b. It is a noise power. Okay, bandwidth increasing, obviously if you increase the bandwidth, so that denominator path will increase. If the denominator path will increase, obviously that part SNR will go down. Okay, so for maintaining the signal to noise ratio, we have to increase the transmitted power also to to maintain the signal to noise ratio at a same level. And the hardware implementation, so if you want to see the hardware because we are using the very high frequencies. Okay, it is impractically impossible to have the oscillators which matches the frequencies at transmitter side and receiver side. If they are not matching the frequencies, okay, so they lead to the phase distortion. Okay, and it's also not possible to have a linear amplifier over for a large bandwidth. Like if you know that if you design any amplifier, so obviously they work on the limited region for a limited bandwidth, and but using a millimeter frequencies, so we are having a very large bandwidth. So for that bandwidth, it is not possible to have that to design a linear power amplifier. And there are some technical challenges also we are facing, like designing a very fast analog to digital converter and digital to analog converters, because we are using the millimeter frequency. So obviously sampling rate will be high. So sampling rate is high, it means we have to convert the analog signal to digital signal in very fast. Okay, so for that we need to have very fast analog to digital converter and digital to analog converters. And also antenna, so we are using antenna in a system, so obviously we need antenna of a large bandwidth because of using the millimeter frequencies. And there's some another high frequency enabled circuit components. So now if you facing these problems, then how can we implement the millimeter wave communication in our system? So we can actually implement this millimeter wave using the MIMO system. Okay, it means the amalgamation of MIMO and millimeter wave frequency can solve all purpose. Okay, then after mixing these two, MIMO technology and millimeter wave frequencies, we can form the millimeter communication, and we can beat the previous, like a high path loss and the penetration losses problems. Okay, and there is one more advantage for using the millimeter wave frequency. You can see that if you are putting the antenna elements in a linear array, you can see that. So obviously when we put a antenna in a linear array, we have to keep the some distance between the antenna array, so that is a lambda by 2. Okay, so obviously if you are using millimeter wave frequencies, so lambda is very low. It means we can pack the more number of antenna in the same physical space. Okay, and what's the key capability of millimeter communication? Obviously it is identify that it is a cellular systems, internet of things, and self backhauling. Okay, so obviously obviously what is now, if you see that what is the data rate of the 5G technology as compared to 4G, so it is a 10 times more, it is at 10 times more than the 4G technologies. Okay, now come to the problems. If you are using the multi input multi output, it means at a transmitter side there will be multi input, at a receiver side there will be multi output. Okay, so now if they are multi input at transmitter side, we need to multiple RF chain, okay, to connect these antennas. Okay, and these RF chain nothing but like they are composed of low noise amplifier and oscillators. Okay, so these RF chain is relatively expensive than the antenna elements. Okay, now if you form the RF chain, okay, if you are using the MIMO technology, so number of RF chain actually should be equal to the number of input antenna elements. Okay, so this creates a problem for us because the obviously RF chain is relatively expensive than the antenna element. Okay, Okay, so now suppose we are using the n antenna elements, so we need a n RF chains. Okay, so if we deploy this kind of architecture, you can see that your transmitter is having a n antenna elements, and receiver is also having a suppose m antenna elements. Okay, so if we are using the MIMO technology at a transmitter side, the number of RF chains should be equal to the number of antenna elements. Okay, so now if you see that in terms of power consumption, if you are using the RF chain, okay, and also we are using the millimeter wave frequency, okay, so you can see that the power consumption of RF chain and millimeter wave frequency is about 2 milliwatt, okay, which is higher than the conventional microwave frequency. Okay, so if you are using the this RF chain at a conventional micro frequency, this is about 30 milliwatt. Okay, it is very smaller than the 250 milliwatt. Okay, so now what should we do that? So now what we do, so now we, in place of the digital architecture, we use, actually I want to tell that when the we use the separate RF chain, okay, to connect the antenna element which form the MIMO digital architecture. Okay, obviously this, if we are using this millimeter communication using a MIMO digital architecture, so it is very expensive and will consume the more power. Okay, to solve this purpose, we use the hybrid architecture. Okay, so we use the MIMO architecture. In the MIMO architecture, actually we divide this architecture in two parts: digital architecture and analog architecture. Okay, so you can see that digital architecture deployed in the digital domain, and analog architecture designed in the analog domain. Okay, so you can see that this is a hybrid architecture, and this is a digital architecture, and these different architecture deployed in the different domain. Okay, now come to the channel sparsity. Okay, so if we are using the millimeter wave frequencies, we have seen that non-line of sight component is a weaker comparatively than the line of sight component. Okay, so obviously this jo millimeter communication, nothing but it's a line of sight communication. Okay, so this millimeter wave communication is nothing but a line of sight communication. It means when the transmitter and receiver, they are they are in the direction of each other, then the communication is possible. Otherwise communication is not possible in the millimeter wave communication. Okay, so what should we do to solve this purpose? So for this purpose, we have formed a system model. So you can see that in the system model, the transmitter will uh, generate a n beams. Okay, and these beams will be orthogonal in the space. Okay, in this way, we, if we want to serve any user, okay, so what we should do, we project our beam in this direction only. Okay, so now question is that why we are generating the beams, because this is a sparse system, only line of sight communication is possible in the system. So that's why we are generating the beams, okay, using this system. Okay, so now obviously we have seen that RF chain is also is a one of the problem. Okay, so now if we are using the n beams, so now in the simple way, if we are generating the n beams, we require n RF chains. Okay, so but there is a problem. Okay, because obviously at a transmitter side, we will have a less RF chains as compared to the number of beams. So now what should I do to solve this problem? Okay, so what we should I do, we what we'll do, we will do that key, we will select only those beam. Okay, like this is a system, and there are k users, like here you can see that there are k users. So obviously there are n beams, but n beams are greater than the number of users. So obviously we can select only k beams. Okay, so obviously we are selecting k beams, it means we are compelled to select only k RF chain. So it means we are saving the number of RF chain which is equal to n minus k. Okay, and obviously if we are saving the number of RF chain, we will save the power consumption. Okay, now here, so problem is that how we will select the relevant beams to corresponding to the user. So this is the problem. So now we can see that, so So we can solve this problem in the two way. First way in that ki this a transmitter side and these are users. Okay, so who will select these beams? So one way we can say that transmitter will select these the relevant beams. Okay. In the second scenario, we can say that ki these mobile station, okay, they will select the radio, they will select the beams, and then they will feed back the information to the transmitter side. Okay, if which beam is selected for which user. Okay, but how will solve this purpose? So here we will use the wireless ad hoc network to solve this purpose. So these mobile stations will talk to each other, okay, and they will run an algorithm, है ना, to select those beams. So we can see that which algorithm we are running to solve our purpose. So you can see that this is an infrastructure and distributed system. So for selecting the relevant beams, we can run the algorithm at a transmitter side and receiver side. Okay, so at receiver side there are k users. Okay, suppose we are running any algorithm at a transmitter side. So you can see that this is a transmitter side which has some memory. Okay, and the suppose uh, for running this algorithm, the user will send the information to the transmitter side. Okay, and the transmitter will access this information and process the algorithm and will select the beams. But here what happens in the network system, the nodes will not we don't need to send the information to any transmitter side. They their cell will select the beam by processing the information. Okay, so now we are following this type of network to select the uh, select the beams. So which is called nothing but is a wireless ad hoc network. Okay, in the so how will select the beams? So you can see that in the user will will communicate with each other and they will exchange the information, relevant information, or by running a relevant algorithm, they can share the beam. So first of all, I want to tell what I algorithm I running here. So there is a two kind of algorithm. You can see that centralized beam selection algorithm and the decentralized beam selection algorithm. So in the decentralized beam selection algorithm, only transmitter assigning the beam to users. But in the centralized beam selection algorithm, user themselves participating in the network, and they are selecting the beams, okay, by exchanging information to each other. So after selecting the beams, they will feed back the information to the transmitter side. So this is a system model. You can see that. So where there is a YB equal to HB Hermitian PB into X plus WB. So this is a receive symbol vector. Okay, receive symbol vector, symbol vector by the user, and HB is a channel matrix. You can see that this is a dimension of K cross N. Okay, and PB is the PB is a distal recording matrix which eliminates the multi-user interference at the receiver side. Okay, it means mobile station. And WB is a nothing but is the noise. Okay, which will add it to the this is to the this information. So now what we have to do? We have to select the beams only, or n beams. So you can see that here the dimension of the matrix is a K cross N. K means K is corresponding to the key user, N corresponding to the beams. So obviously we have K users in the system. It means we have to select only K users. So it means we have to reduce the dimension of this channel matrix. Okay, so after reducing the dimension of the channel matrix, it will become K cross K. So obviously users will be K, but now users K, it means requires a K beams only. So after the reducing the channel matrix, we will have the K beams. So but question is that how we'll select the beam, how we'll reduce the dimension of the channel matrix. So now this is a first of all, I want to discuss the beam selection algorithm through auction. Okay, so what happens in the auction algorithm? It is simple. It is motivated by practical. Like a practical auctioning. If there is a bidder. Okay, which is a central unit. Which auction the items to the bidders. Okay, so now bidders will raise the price of the item, okay, for which they desire the most. Okay, after getting the bids from the bidder, the auctioneer sell the each item to the highest bidder. So same algorithm will apply here to select the beam. You can see that we see that there is a k users and n beams. Okay, so it means they are k. It means they are n items. Okay, there are n items and there are k bidders. So the k bidder have to choose only k items. It means k and k beams from this set only. Okay, so now we can see that ki, first of all, what we consider the benefit, है ना? Suppose that there are k items and suppose there are n item and there are one bidders. Okay, obviously if the bidder want to buy one item, so he will get some benefit, but for he is buying that item because he's getting some benefit. So similarly, what happens in this system, suppose this is a mobile station, is situated at this place. Obviously all the beams will not relevant for this user, only few beams are will be relevant. It means because of from the few beams he will get the good gain from all the from not all the beams. So this is the benefit. Okay, in this system we are using the gain as a benefit in our system. So you can see that let be the benefit gained by the user k from beam n. Okay, for user k from beam n, and this is a benefit, nothing but is a gain which is received by user kth user from the beam n. Okay, and this is initial price, okay, which have to pay for the user to get this beam. Okay, now what happens, we if we apply this condition, which is called, which is that is the gain minus price, initial price of the item, you can initial price of the beam. Okay, if this condition is satisfied for all the user, okay, then the algorithm terminates, because this equation will compel to get the equilibrium condition. But it's not possible, it is not possible to get the equilibrium very easily, because there will be some users, okay, they are very close to each other and they will ask for the same beam. So what should I do for solving that purpose? So in that purpose, these two users will raise the bid for that beam. Okay, they will raise the bids there for that particular beam. Okay, so now what is the by what amount they should raise their bidding amount? So this is raised by the delta k price. Okay, a delta k price is obtained by that bk minus bk dash. What is the bk? So bk nothing but is the highest profit, highest net profit. Okay, and this is the bk dash, the second highest net profit for user k. Okay, then we subtract it. Okay, and then we'll get the bidding increment amount. Okay, by this amount these user will increase their bidding amount. Okay, and the epsilon, what is the epsilon? Sometimes what happens, bk and bk dash can be equal to each other, so that's why delta k can be 0. So in this way it is very difficult to have an equilibrium condition, so that's why we add the epsilon term in this. So epsilon nothing but is a participating price, okay, which enforced with the equilibrium condition. So now condition, what happens here, it will be some unassigned user and there will be some assigned user. Assigned user means they are having a beam. Okay, the beam are assigned to those user, and assigned user means the beam is not assigned to those user. So now what happens, unassigned user will increase their bidding amount by their amount delta k. Okay, or now suppose now this user is increased their bidding amount by delta k. Now for a particular beam, but that particular beam is already assigned to those user, that user. But now what happens after increasing the bidding amount, that this user will get that beam, and the earlier assigned user will be now assigned, now it is assigned. Okay, so now this process will keep repeating until all the user will not get all the beams, all different get the different beams. Okay, so in this way we run this algorithm. Okay, so nothing but this is a pseudo code of the beam selection through auction. Now come to the distributed mode. So earlier we are explaining this auction algorithm in distributed mode. It means the central unit was auctioning the items. Now here there is no any central unit, only the users have to participate in this network, and they have to make an arrangement to solve this purpose, to select the beams. Now so what happens in this, so we can see that in this in we can see here, because the each user earlier they are connected to the central unit. Okay, so central unit will have the price list of the each item. It means it means price list of the each item. But here in the distributed system, each user, how we there's no centralized unit we can manage everything. So what will happen in the initially, the user will set themselves as a highest bidders, because he is not aware that suppose there are two users, okay, in the distributed network system, and they are demanding for the same beam, but they are not knowing each other ki ha, we two are demanding the same beam, but initially they set themselves the highest bidders. Okay, now we'll see the how this algorithm working. So if we can see that there is k user and n users, and set of users and beams. Okay, so now see can that we can see that this is the assignment status of the user k. It means initially they set themselves as the highest bidder. So this is a assignment status, okay, for particular kth user alpha k t equal to n. Okay, so he suppose that kth user demanding for the n beam, but he is not unaware of other users. So they set this user that set himself as a highest bidders. Okay, now what happened? The price list of user k correspond to the each beam is represented. Now this is a price list. Okay, so now price list we will represent in this way, like a r in the subscript. You can see the rkn. It means the price like for the kth user for the nth beam. Okay, okay, corresponding to the price for kth user and nth beam. So now this algorithm will run many times. So at a time t, what happens? The highest bidders with the larger index is given as in this way actually. Okay, so I have already seen that the user set himself a highest bidders. For this, for this assignment status, we assigning a new parameter jk alpha k, which is equal to k. Okay, so now we have set the beam and set the and the assign the user that particular beam. Now user will check this assignment every each time. Okay, this this problem. Now we come see that how will this algorithm will be run. So now what happens, each user will unaware of the price of the another user, okay, of neighbor users. So what happens, they will exchange the information with each other. So suppose there is a delta kt, dkt, nothing but this is a set of neighbor users to the user k. So obviously there is a kth user will connect to the many users obviously. Okay, so they will exchange the information to each other. Okay, obviously, so in so obviously when they exchange the information to each other, so initially each user set themselves as a highest bidder, but after exchanging information, they will get know that yes, this user paying the lot for getting that beam. So obviously that user will also increase their bidding amount. Okay, obviously in the same way he will increase that that user will increase the bidding amount by delta k. Okay, so now we can see that at a time t, we have discussed delta k is a bk is the best price, is the second best price. Okay, and we are adding the again epsilon, which is a participating price. Okay, which enforce to get the equilibrium condition. Okay, now we will run this in this algorithm for n times to get the correct assignment. Okay, so suppose now the what is the most important line is here. Suppose the user after exchanging the user, what happened after exchanging the information, if a user find that ki bidding amount is found to be higher. Okay, bidding amount, suppose this that user is asking for the particular beam. Okay, okay, but that beam, that beam is assigned to that like a two user, but second user is paying a lot for getting that beam. So now that user will know that that bidding amount is found to be higher. Okay, which is made by another user. Then the user updates, okay, the highest bidding amount and corresponding the highest bidders. Okay, after getting the after exchanging the information that key, but still he want that beam, particular beam. Okay, so what we happens, that user will increase the bidding amount by this amount. Okay, so it is keep on rotating this price lead from each user, from one user to another user. Okay, like a so we are following the here, we are following a simple single hop network. Okay, so in the single hop network, so one user can only share the information to the neighbor users only. Okay, so now So what happens? So this algorithm should be run by separately by all the user for the several cycles. So how many cycles we need required to run this algorithm? So actually, when the it is price list is owned by each user in the distributed network. When this price list doesn't change, then this algorithm terminates, and we then user will assign user will corporately will assign get assigned the beam, different beams actually, and that information will pass to the transmitter side, and the transmitter will assign this beams to the each user. So this is a pseudo code for this algorithm. And obviously after assigning the beams, okay, after assigning the beams, we need to eliminate the multi-user interference at a user side. So we apply the we apply the particular QPR precoding. Okay, so in the PR precoding you can see that this are received symbol by kth user. Okay, and RKK delta nothing but is the gain, okay, which is received by a assigned beam, and X delta is nothing but is transmitted symbol, and WB delta is a nothing but it is a noise. Okay, and this symbol is received by the user K. So now if we talk about the complexity of that beam, okay, that algorithm, sorry, that algorithm. So if we see that the algorithm, we have following the two algorithm here, that is a auction based and distribution auction based. So auction based is a centralized algorithm, and distribution auction based is the decentralized algorithm. So you can see that the decentralized algorithm, the complexity of which is order of the n cube, in the decentralized auction algorithm is the order of delta n cube. Okay, sorry, n square only. So we can see that we are reducing the complexity of the algorithm by deploying in the distributed manner. Okay, in the ad hoc mode. Okay, so it means it is a order of n cube, and it's the order of n cube. Okay, so now we will talk about the performance of the algorithm. So we here we are taking the n equal to 56 beam and k equal to 16 users. Okay, so now each user is uniformly situated in the angular domain. Okay, in the network, and we are running this algorithm. So you can see that this is the you can see that there's a proposed distributed auction algorithm and the proposed auction based algorithm. Okay, so in the proposed distributed auction algorithm and the performance of these both algorithm is same. Okay, and they are nearby to the QR based beam selection algorithm. Okay, so it means we are getting a relatively good performance as compared to this proposed algorithm. Okay, but it is approximately equal to the QR based algorithm. Okay, now if you see that QR based algorithm, the complexity of the QR based algorithm which is proposed, okay, so which is higher than the this centralized auction based beam selection algorithm and distributed auction based beam selection algorithm. It means we are reducing the complexity, as well as the we are getting a good performance here in the system. Okay, this is nothing but this is a spectral efficiency. Okay, in the y-axis, in the x-axis, this is nothing but is a signal to noise ratio. Okay, so in this way, so now we can see that key, if we compare this performance, so this a QR based is also proposed actually by me. So but after that we proposed this distributed auction algorithm. Okay, so this is distributed algorithm, nothing but is giving a like a we are reducing the complexity as well as, and we are getting the gain approximately equal to the QR based beam selection. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Rahul sir.
Yes, sir.
So now the forum is open. If anyone want to ask something, please ask regarding the presentation, and regarding if you have any question on mmWave new services or wireless networks or something else. Okay, Rahul sir, I am having one question.
Hmm.
If the vehicles are communicating with each other and definitely they are moving,
Yes, sir.
then why we are not calling the vehicular net? Why we are calling it vehicular network? It is the same as mobile network because
Correct.
the
But
mobile
sir,
devices are also moving and they are
yeah,
communicating with each other.
but sir, vehicular network is highly dynamic as compared to the mobile ad hoc network because these are vehicles, so they are running with the speed actually. In the mobile ad hoc network,
Mm-hmm.
मतलब they are movable, but their speed is very low as compared to the vehicle. So obviously
Okay.
we are calling it a vehicle. So obviously it
Mm.
nature of the vehicle is moving with a high speed. So that's why we are not calling it a mobile ad hoc network.
Okay. One question is there, sir, on chat by
Yes, sir.
Mr. Shiva Krishna, and it is I need some communication point of view in aerospace engineering also. You,
Okay.
if you can discuss.
So uh, in the aerospace actually that I know, if we in context of ad hoc network,
Mm.
so if you deploy the ad hoc network, obviously the aircraft, you know, is having a wireless device. Okay. So and in the there will be several aircraft devices. Okay. So each aircraft device will have wireless device, and they can communicate to each other in the space also actually. So this will be application in the aircraft air, we can say in the aerospace.
Okay, one more question is there, and it is how to integrate cognitive radio in MIMO by
Uh,
Mr. Srinivas K.
okay. So cognitive networks are actually we use they if you see that in the basic level, so there is a primary user, there is a secondary user in the cognitive network. When the primary user not active, then the secondary user will capture that channel and he will transmit their signal. Okay. So what, so if you want to mix, want to we also include the MIMO. So we can we can uh, look, we can think of that key that the device is having a multiple input and the receiver is also multiple output. So in this way we can apply only, but it is quite actually I think different from cognitive network. The use of cognitive network is nothing but is to use the channel which are free at a particular time, I think.
Okay, if anyone asks, if anyone want to ask something, please ask. Or let me wind up the session now. I think no question is there, sir.
Okay.
And
Okay, sir.
on behalf of AICT sponsored Atal FDB on the mobile computing and wireless network at MIT Meerut, I
Yes, sir.
really wish to convey my regards to Dr. Rahul for his valuable presentation and his session on MIMO technologies. Basically, he explain the basic ad hoc wireless network first, and definitely it was a great one. And then slowly he built the bed. First of all, he built the bed for MIMO, and then later he discussed the problems and the solutions in MIMO technologies. So I'm really thankful to Dr. Rahul, and thanks
Okay,
a lot,
thank you,
sir.
sir.
Yeah.
Thank
On
you,
the
sir.
behalf of
Okay.
all the participants, thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay.